So I'm going to go over what studios are and also our first studio activity. So I'm going to go from your homepage. One of the ways you can always find studio activities, aside from just in like your calendars when things are due, is to go to modules. And you have your start here stuff, your weekly schedule with all of our weekly calendars and work. Then you also have your studios. So I'm going to start with just what is a studio. Um, and first, it's an additional virtual space aside from like what we would typically be doing like in session one and session two. It's an additional extra kind of assignment that typically takes longer or is a little more like multifaceted than what we would typically be doing in the quick turnaround of like weekly work. Each activity does typically take between 2 and 3 hours, and it can vary. But this is a 4-hour credit course, so studios are considered additional to your weekly work. But again, they'll still fall on the same due dates. It'll either be due on a Thursday or a Sunday every week. And kind of what it looks like, sometimes it'll be like videos, reflections, readings, things that help you explore concepts we're talking about. You might be creating things. Typically, I might often have you kind of submit your work at the end. It can vary. What I typically use studio time for is independent work that's going to push your research or your portfolio further. So there's a lot of research activities that are involved in your in brainstorming involved in your studio work. For assessment, what I want you to think about is this is part of your course engagement grade. So it is part of that, and they are because they're bigger assignments. They're a little bit higher stakes, meaning they have a higher impact on your grade than like a daily individual activity would. So they are kind of a big deal. And so I will be kind of assessing and looking at did you complete everything? Were you accurate with the directions? Were you engaged and thorough in your work? So a couple of like tips to make sure you're doing well with studio work. I said this before, spend 2 to 3 hours on each activity. Try not to wait to the last minute because it can overlap with other things that we're doing for class. So you don't want them to back up on you. You typically have more than a week to get them done. And it's sometimes helpful to set aside a specific time separate from the rest of the class just to work on your studio work. Make sure you're class is online, so make sure you're really like reading directions and prompts and submission guidelines really carefully. And ask questions. Be proactive about asking questions, and be specific in your work. And I say this also with everything. If there's a reading or research involved, make sure that you are asking good questions, including your like personal experiences and connections, referencing specific data or specific quotes or words from the text. So really making sure you're getting the extra bump for that engagement and thoroughness in your work. We're going to start with Studio One. And Studio One, I think, is the lightest of some of the studio work that you'll be doing. And the goal of Studio One is to start by doing some of the things that we just talked about in the presentation, like reading some things that are interesting to you and getting some ideas, and to collaborate and share some ideas with peers. So in this activity, you'll be prompted to start by going out and reading some different texts. You can look at issues that you're interested in or go to sources that you would normally go to. I'm going to give you some help with that. And you're going to post ideas and respond to ideas on a Padlet. So I'm going to go to the next page. And what I have on the next page is just a lot of ideas and places that you're going to go. So you're going to go out and read, watch, or listen to some different, texts and get some ideas. You're going to choose two that look like they're interesting. They're not on the list of banned topics. They're not fact hunts. They represent debatable issues and events that are going on in the world, and you're going to post them to the Padlet. So I gave you some ideas of some places you can go, some different kinds of news sources, and also I included like TED Talks, because who doesn't love TED Talks? And these are the lists of brainstorming. I included the list from all of the sections to give you as many ideas as possible. So if you want to look at just some issues or topics that people threw out there as something you can kind of look up on your own, you're welcome to use this to get some ideas also. Once you have your 2 sources or ideas, you are going to go to the Padlet. Link is here. You're going to add your URL, and you're going to use a hook. So where it says like write something, you're going to put like a quote or a question, or come up with your own kind of statement, something that's going to quickly like let people know what it's about, make them want to read it. So something catchy. And then you're going to write 2 to 3 sentences for each of your 2 posts that explain. So in the like reply at the bottom, the comment section, that kind of summarizes really quickly like what your interest is, like why you thought this was interesting, why, like, well, what your reaction is, why it might be something good to research. Then you're going to go to and everything everybody's posted and look through 3 other posts from your peers, and you're going to write 3 to 4 sentence responses to each. Your response can be your opinion to what issue you think that source represents as a whole. It can be a response to your peers' comments, or it could be a reaction to something like specifically discussed in that piece, to that particular event. Something that's going to be useful, and we're going to go to this Padlet, and then this is where you are going to, we've been doing this, so I feel like you kind of have the hang of how the Padlet works. But you'll see some people have, or someone has already kind of posted, and you have reminders of the directions here, and you'll post your stuff here and click on it. I would go to click on this button here, and you can just enter your URL and click save. And that is it. Bye.